Hi there and welcome to 2020. This is the first video of 2020 that I'll be creating this year, and I wanted to wish you a very happy new year. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas and that you managed to have a little bit of a break. It is an intense type of business to have, this solopreneur, thought leader, expert, consultant type space. So I don't know about you, but I find a lot of people really kind of go, oh wow, like they really fall in a heap at the end of the year and just need that break. I know I've had a bit of a digital detox over the last couple of weeks, but I am ready to go, and I hope that you are too for 2020. Some of you perhaps may have even been affected by the fires. I know here in Queensland, northern New South Wales, been affected by fires. It was a few weeks before Christmas, so there was a lot going on there. But if you are down in Victoria, New South Wales area, thinking of you, and we've been in contact with a lot of family, trying to work out how we can help them as well over the last couple of weeks. So my sister is in Canberra, and all the flights from Canberra have been cancelled, which was yesterday. They should get some rain today, fingers crossed. But you know, it really is just an extraordinary, serious situation. And if you, I guess what I've been thinking about, I've been thinking a lot about Celeste Barber. If you haven't seen, is that she put up a post on, I think it was Friday or Saturday. Celeste Barber, if you don't follow her already, she's a comedian who's on social media, particularly Facebook. And she put up a post to raise her goal was to raise $10,000 for people who have been, for the New South Wales Fire Service. We are, what, three days in, and she's already passed the $30 million mark. So, and I think it's a good reminder that, you know, sometimes we can forget, because she put a video out to say, you know, I'm overwhelmed. I can't believe this has happened. And you know, I think what happens sometimes is we forget the influence that we have, but what she has that is unique compared to others who have put themselves out there or who have recommended or suggested places to donate to, is one thing that she has in her brand is authentic influence. The more authentic you are, the more value proposition the greater value proposition, and the more trust you have in your brand. So one of the things that's worked, I think, particularly well in her case is she's had a lot more influence than she's perhaps realized. And I think that's the same for all of us. You know, we have, you know, for a lot of us, we have social media followings. We have people who watching what we do, and we sometimes are sometimes a bit too close to our own stuff. So if you haven't already, one of the things I would suggest, if you're not really sure how to make the most of this situation, one of the things that can be hard at the moment is putting content out that can feel a little bit commercial. So what I would encourage you to do is to find ways to perhaps share some of the information that's going on out there, put up where people can donate if that's what you would like to do. I find sometimes when we have natural disasters or disasters like this, and we had the same thing in Queensland when we had the floods in 2011, it can really affect your business if you're struggling to work out how to market and position. Because you're coming into the new year, you're trying to get all these new clients and you're trying to market, and then there's a disaster and this is taking over all the media. So so I just encourage you to, you know, try not to panic, but look for ways that you can stay relevant during these times in your business. Find ways to help support people, you know, get involved in community activities, shine a light on where people can donate, things like that. They can be more valuable at this time, and they can also still be valuable for your business too. All right, so with that said, I wanted to share with you what I think are the 3 things to perhaps have a think about in 2020 to help you to achieve your goals. So in 2019, well, actually in the lead up to putting this together, I was thinking a lot about, you know, there's a lot of things about New Year's resolutions. There's a lot of things about what you need to focus on and goal setting. And when I'm working with my clients, you know, we do lots of goal setting at the beginning of the year, and we do lots of strategy and all those types of things. But today what I wanted to do was I wanted to share with you the 3 things that worked for me in 2019, and they may even work for you, who knows. So For me, 2019 was the year of space and self-care. So what I had to do in the lead up to 2019, I had way too much going on. I had to quieten down. I had to quieten down a lot of noise, and just to create some space to think and listen to my own advice. So it might sound a little bit odd, but I had to cut back on anything that generated too many new inquiries and too many new leads. So last year I cut back all my speaking events. In fact, I've done it for the last 18 months. I cut back on all my travel. I cut back on a lot of programs I was delivering. And I really had to reassess some of the bigger questions to help me to really create the practice, work with the clients I love working with, and the life that I am trying to design. So the questions that I was trying to answer in 2019 were: who am I? Why am I here? Who do I serve best? And who do I love serving? What energizes me? What do I love doing, even if I wasn't paid? I was asking questions like, what am I prepared to risk? What am I prepared to lose? I was also thinking about things like, what's the legacy that I want to leave? Like, what, when I'm dead and gone, what would still be left? And I also really had to ask the question, what if I fail? And because failure brings up fear and all those things, and I just had to try and really address, any of those things front on. So what I did was as a result of asking all these questions, I really looked at 3 key areas that have helped me in 2019. I've started to get my energy back. I've got a lot of focus for 2020. I'm getting married this year. So they may help you. So I'm just going to share them with you. And the 3 things are removals, routines, and a ruckus. So I'll explain what each of those are: removals, routines, and a ruckus. So the first thing is removals. So I think what happens, I don't know if you found this, but I think what happens when you're in a world of noise and you're in a world of just so much overwhelm, there's nowhere to go. Like, the only place you can go is to just start. You just got to start removing things, because you just can't keep shoving more and more into days and weeks and months. So what I had to do, and what I think it's a bit like Marie Kondoing your life. Like, not so much physical things, but I had to Marie Kondo my practice. I had to Marie Kondo just everything. And I think it's the same for your business and career. I think we can just keep on trying to do more and more and more. And I often think of, I love reading about systems thinking. It's something I love learning about. And we actually have a systems thinking expert in our group, Dr. Richard Hodge. And I don't know if you like systems thinking, but I love reading the work of Peter Senge, and he's a systems thinking expert in the US. And he says that you shouldn't, he says, don't push growth. He says, remove the factors limiting growth. And I reckon he's pretty spot on. So this year I removed tiredness, I removed toxic people, I removed expectations, I did some physical things, like I removed clothes out of my closet, I did big clean outs, the kitchen, all that sort of stuff. I even removed a hills hoist. But what I learned from removing things is that you start to gain a deeper sense of yourself. You gain a deeper sense of your own identity, and it's sort of sitting under all the noise. I also learned a greater sense of gratitude and abundance. So I realized that nothing was missing. And it allowed my own voice to come through for me. And it also allowed me to tap into my intuition. So self-doubt, fears, worries started to fall away. And what I found was moments of creativity started to emerge a bit more for me. As a result, my word this year is prolific, and it's about creative abundance and things like that. So that's sort of come as a result of removing things. Even things like I removed, you might not have noticed last year, but I only did videos for my clients I've worked with or currently working with. So in other words, in my expert to influencer group, I only did videos for them. I didn't I only created probably 3 or 4 new videos last year, and it was really because I just had to try and remove a lot of extra things and a lot of noise, and to get more strategic. So anyway, my question for you is if you're thinking about, okay, you know, what does this mean for me? If you're thinking about what you need to remove, my question is, what do you need to remove? Maybe it's certain people in your life. Maybe it's programs. Maybe there's certain clients that you have constant problems with, like maybe they don't pay their bills, or you know, like, it's okay. You are in charge of your own business, so maybe it's time to look at that. Maybe it's removing so much travel, or maybe you've got too much physical stuff, like so it could be that. What's no longer working for you or serving you? What can, you know, it's that whole 80-20 rule. Get rid of the 80% of things, or some of them that may not be working for you. Or what's costing you too much time or too much energy and things like that. So that's the first one, is removals. What do you need to get rid of? The second one that made a big difference for me in 2019 is routines. So Aristotle once said that we are what we repeatedly do. And so therefore excellence is not an act, but a habit. And it's something that has always stuck with me. And I think if you read James Clear's Atomic Habits, which was really probably the book of 2019, is if you can get those routines, habits and routines in place, is that they create less friction in your practice. And they also allow you to gain greater traction. So one of the things I obsess over with the team and I've got an amazing team, is continuous improvement. And that comes because we have good habits and routines in place. And if you don't have those, you just don't achieve your goals anyway. So it's one thing to have goals, but if you haven't got habits and routines in place, then more often than not, they just won't happen. So what I find is routines create greater creativity, because they create less what do you call it, like having to stop and make decision fatigue. They stop decision fatigue, so you're not having to constantly think of things. Is that it's sort of like when you've got routines and habits set up, it's like autopilot is just set up, and all you have to do is just get on the treadmill, and you just have to do it. Because, you know, the thing is, when you've got dreams and goals and you know, they don't just magically appear, do they? Like, you have to actually get them in place and make them happen. So a book doesn't write itself. You know, you have to have time blocked out, either each day, each week, or however you're going to do it. You know, there's just no silver bullet, is there? You know, one of the things I did for my routines, at the beginning of the year, I always reassess all the routines that are in the calendar. And when I did last year, because it was the year of self-care, I really reassessed self-care routines. So this was around exercise. There was other things, like just simple stuff like going to the dentist. You know, I was sort of going, oh, whenever I sort of thought of it, but I found a fantastic dentist and I really like them, and they just have me booked in every 6 months now. I don't have to think about it. It's just automatically rebooked. So, you know, then they're just done and you don't have to think about it. So one of the things that I see with clients that I think is one of the greatest challenges that they have is we underestimate how long things take, don't we? You know, we underestimate, what's the saying? We overestimate what we can get done in a day, but underestimate what we can get done in a lifetime. And I think it's so true. And one of the things that I think is, when you're starting something new, is we've got to be a little bit generous with ourselves, because we've got to become more conscious and aware of how long things actually take. So for example, like if you're thinking, okay, I want to write a blog each week, let's say that's the routine you need to get back into, then, you know, the first few times you might do it might take, you know, 2 hours. But you'll get to a point where they actually start to take you only about 10, 15, 20 minutes. If you know how to do them, you get the ideas working. But it's just allow yourself for the first few to be a little bit clunky. Same goes for holidays. In 2019, one of the things that we did was booked a long weekend every 6 weeks. So, and booked it at the beginning of the year. So went through the calendar and just put them all in. Now, some of them moved a little bit, like Tetris, but overall, about 80% of them worked. So my advice to you is look at what are the things you need to set better routines around based on what it might be for you, if it's self-care, if it's about marketing, or whatever it might be. So my questions for you with routines are, what goals are you trying to achieve in 2020 and what requires a routine application? So is it each day, week, month, or year? And get it in the calendar. If it's not in the calendar, it won't get done. How long will each of those routines take? So be generous with your time when you're starting out, because otherwise you just go into failure and you go, oh, well, you know, it takes ages, so I just won't bother. Have you blocked it in your calendar? And my other big one with that is, how are you going to manage the interruptions or unexpected things that come along to ensure that you still get those things completed or those routines completed? So maybe it's you need to turn your phone off. Maybe it's you need to divert your calls to your business manager. Like, what do you need to do to set yourself up for success with your routines? And so that's the second one, routines. So the first one was removals. Second one is routines, and the third and lucky last one is a ruckus. So one of the goals I had last year was I wanted to interview my favorite marketer of all time, Seth Godin. And one of the things, and achieved that, and then one of the things that he talks about is in his books, he talks about you want to create a ruckus. So a ruckus is an idea. It's something you're prepared to talk about and make a noise about. So ideas don't just sell themselves. We have to, you know, to create influence, we really need to decide what it is that we really want to share with the world. Because as Seth says, he says, you know, we're waiting for you to lead us. Like, come on. So what we do know is, if you look at platforms like LinkedIn and things like that, only about 1% of people actually write content. The rest of the population say they don't have time, they don't know what to write, or they don't know what to say, they don't think their ideas are good enough, or they just simply can't be bothered. The best thing about that is it creates plenty of opportunity for us who are prepared to share our ideas and innovate and create a positive impact in the world. So to create a ruckus, I reckon this is your high impact work. This is the work that makes a difference, is your contribution and your genius. So the ruckus, when you're thinking about your ruckus for this year, my question to you would be, what do you want to disrupt? What do you want to create and make some noise about? What problem does that solve from your client's perspective? Is it actually a problem that they would say they have and are prepared to pay for it? Otherwise, it's a crusade. How will it benefit them? And how will it benefit your tribe or your community? How will they know? How are they going to see the value in that? And what do you stand for? And how is it congruent with who you are? So by that, I mean, what happens sometimes when I see people trying to create a ruckus is that they have something that they're really passionate about, but it's an aspiration almost for them. It's not congruent with them right now. So for example, let's say, for example, you have a big idea. Let's say your big idea is about, let's say it's productivity, but you're actually not the most productive person. And so it has to be really congruent with who you are. I know that sounds like, yeah, that's a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised. I reckon about 50% of the clients I work with are not congruent with their words. So you need to be the living example of that word. When I think of it, I think of someone like Ali Brown. She had her big word, and her ruckus is to be iconic. If you're wanting to create an iconic brand, you have to be an iconic brand, and Ali Brown is that. So you can't be an iconic brand, or you can't necessarily, it's going to be difficult. You can, but it's going to be difficult for you to feel authentic to your audience if you're wanting to be iconic, but you haven't got an iconic brand yourself. So you just have to be a little bit careful. But anyway, have a think about that. But as a result, So those three. So we've already got removals, we've got routines, and a ruckus. If you can get those three things in place this year, I know I've now put those into my annual planning. It was an idea that I had last year of just playing and allowing myself space, but they've worked so well that these questions are now in my annual reviews. And I'm also talking to my team about them. So what do you need to get rid of this year? What do we need to get off your plate? What do you need? What can you delegate? Sally Foley-Lewis in our group has got a book coming up around, written a book around delegation. If, you know, that's going to be a great book for delegating things. What can you get rid of in your practice? And how can perhaps have these conversations with your team as well? So I look forward to seeing your content this year for your communities. I'd love to hear about what are the things you've removed, what routines you've put in place, what's your ruckus for 2020. This year my focus is the content creation boot camps. We've got online and face-to-face ones happening this year. I'll also be sharing some strategy sessions. So I've got a couple of spots between now and the end of the month and a couple in February that I'll do for annual strategy sessions. So if you want some help, please reach out. I'm happy to have a chat and chat about what your goals are for 2020 and do a little bit of planning. So I hope this helps and have a fantastic 2020.